for criticism, and it may not be for profit. That should be clear. I want an open society. I stand for something altogether different than what the bureaucrats in this institution stand for. Now, the second value that I think we can expect a university to uphold is honesty. Not long ago, I sat over there in Memorial Auditorium, and I heard a speaker proclaim that he didn't believe that the United States government would ever try to deceive the American people. You're laughing? Now, that man that said that, I'm sure, is just as intelligent, more intelligent than most of us. And I would guess that he knows more about what's happening in the world than any of us do. The simple conclusion is that that man was lying. He knows over and over again how the government has been lying to us. Now, that's not my point. I'm not talking about him. I saw Ohio University administrators applauding that man. They should be ashamed of themselves for applauding that man. If the university has any place in society, it ought to include a commitment to truth. What has happened to the university that it can't stand up for truth? The last 12 years, our government has been lying and lying and lying to us. And I doubt that Charles Ping ever once took the position that he ought to take and the moral position that he ought to hold and said our government is lying to us. Yeah. There's corruption in this hall. Now, not only are Charles Ping and Alan Geiger unwilling to call a public figure lying when he lies, but they're lying themselves. I don't know if Charles Ping has lied to us, but I know that Alan Geiger has lied to us, and Charles Ping is responsible for everything that Alan Geiger says. Charles Ping is responsible for every one of Alan Geiger's lies, unless Charles Ping comes out publicly and denounces those lies. I'm sick and tired of being lied to. I'm sick and tired of deceit, of a lack of openness and secrecy, which is counter to all of the values that I was taught that Americans are supposed to hold. Now, if Alan Geiger and Charles Ping are not willing to live by openness and honesty, I suggest they resign their position and go work for British Petroleum. Yeah. Unless they straighten up, they have no business being part of a public institution of education. Yeah. What do we do? I just want to say that the answer to secrecy and lies is openness and honesty. And I hope we commit our lives to that and to struggling against the lies and the deceit and the secrecy that goes on in this institution and throughout our whole culture.
Hello. I'm really upset about what the university is doing without my consent. Is everybody else here really upset? Yeah! I want to hear you howl. I'm not only upset, but I'm pissed off. Today is the Earth Summit. Today the Earth Summit begins, and we weren't invited. We as environmentally concerned people who get out on this beautiful day to speak how we feel about what's going on and the lack of public input and the lack of environmental concern. We were not invited to the Earth Summit. George Bush was invited to the Earth Summit. George Bush is not the environmental president. Bill Clinton is not the environmental president, and neither is Perot. We have really lousy options this year, and I'm not going to talk about that, but I think it's awful that George Bush is representing us, is representing the United States of America, when we are leading this country into this decay and decadence that our country so wonderfully idolizes. Should I stand back? I'm mad, okay? The Earth Summit, at the Earth Summit, George Bush is going to sign some legislation, not some legislation, something that's completely inadequate that says, yes, we have a global warming problem, but no, we're not going to do anything about it. And I'm mad about that. And we, as the students and community members here, especially the students, are going to inherit this legacy of toxic waste and deforestation and all the other environmental problems, global warming, air pollution, everything. We are going to inherit this, and that's why I'm speaking up, and that's why I'm mad. And today we're getting upset about the ridges, and people might be wondering how this ties in. Well, I think we all know how this ties in. This ties in because this is a matter of lack of public input and lack of environmental concern when big corporations are trying to move their interests into every aspect of our society, even our education, okay? We are going to be funding, it is very likely that our tuition dollars are going to be funding a biotechnology center that very few of us want and very few of us are going to get anything out of except for a few large corporations and a few politicians and administrators' pocketbooks, perhaps. The university has failed to do any type of environmental impact statement. They have hired private firms to look into it and say what is going to happen if we develop this land. They have not done an environmental impact statement. Now, if this was federally funded, if federal money was coming for this project, they would have to do an environmental impact statement, and they're not doing it because they don't have to. I think they should do an environmental impact statement out of good faith because they're concerned about the environment. Oftentimes, environmental issues run into the argument that you're going to depress the economy. You're going to get rid of jobs, okay? And sometimes this is debatable. This is not debatable here. The most jobs that will be created from this biotechnology center on the ridges that will have a severe impact on the land is 30 jobs. And this is not about community, it's not about economic development, it's not about economic growth. It's about 30 jobs, specialized field, graduate students, and there is not a surplus of graduate students looking for jobs in Appalachia, Ohio, in Athens, Ohio. This is not the kind of jobs that Athens needs. There's a motion that's going to be voted on in Student Senate tomorrow, and Student Senate is hopefully going to come out in opposition to the plans that the university has. Now, we brought the motion up last week in Student Senate, and it was tabled because they didn't feel they had enough information because both sides had not presented their story. Only Sikh and the environmentally concerned people have presented their concerns. And you know why that the other side hasn't been presented is because these people know that their arguments cannot stand up in the face of environmentalism and that their arguments are bullshit, okay? Now, they are afraid to defend what they're promoting because they know it's not defendable, because they know that we have researched this very well, and of course they're going to continue to say we don't know what we're talking about. But I think we proved today, and that we'll continue to prove, that we do know what we're talking about, and that a lot of people are on our side, and we've already gotten over 3,000 signatures, and that's with very little effort. Yeah. And I think they're going to have to come out and publicly debate us because they have no other choice, okay? Now, let's see. A couple of points that were brought up when the Student Senate motion was tabled, and I'll finish up really shortly. Steve Wharton, who's in Student Senate, suggested that, oh, there are roads everywhere. You know, there's roads going down Court Street. The whole world is covered with roads. What's one more road? God, I didn't think that kind of mentality existed anymore. I mean, I really hope that that is the minority opinion. I really think it is, because what's one more road? You know, what's one more oil spill? What's, you know, I mean,